Yep, this time, of course, game two is going to be a Magyar's mirror match on the map Arabia.
Indeed, and up to the very northwest of the map in the blue, we have got Spring playing as the Magyars.
Yep, and on the right half of the map, we've got Hallis Scholar here, the red player, playing as the Magyars as well.
Yes, and this is game number 2 in the grand finals of the ZeroEmpires Invitational, and I am certainly looking forward to seeing what Spring has in store for us this game, because last game, let's be honest, it was fairly lame, fairly aggressive, and I think, obviously with this being Arabia, that suits him even more than it did on Yucatan.
Yeah, Spring is known, of course, for his bag of tricks and his forward palisade wall, early drush shenanigans right now. And hopefully we'll see something different from him this game, because we've seen him do this plenty and plenty of times. But he is starting this match off, of course, with two very, very well done deer lures with his scout. So it should give him a little bit of eco edge.
Definitely. I mean, those two deer there, of course, going to give him a nice little food boost, the extra food that they give over a sheep, and of course the gathering speed as well. The only downside to taking deer right at the start is that you do have to bring the villagers back to the town center to drop that food off, because they gather so much more food from a deer. They don't just gather 10, they gather 35, and obviously that's going to have to be dropped off at the TC in order to keep those villagers popping out.
Yeah, and one side effect of this that we see is Spring's lumber camp here is very, very slightly delayed from Hallis Scholar. Not very significant, but he did put an extra villager on food before he started to build that. So Hal already has the lumber camp up, and Springs is not even complete.
Yeah, at the moment, Hallis getting that little bit of extra wood in sooner. Now, one thing I've noticed here, if you have a look at the Fog of War for Hallis, he's hardly scouted his own base at all. You know, he's not even found all of his sheep yet. He's found his 2 boar. But he's not found the other 4 sheep that should be around. In fact, sorry, the other 2 sheep that should be around. And he's trying to find Spring quickly, and I think he's either going to try and do some funky Feudal Age aggression, or even Dark Age aggression here, even. Maybe he's just going to try and lame Spring right back and wall that gold off, and he's found that main gold now. He knows he is very close to Spring. He's kind of, you know, he's got his nose on the tracks of Spring here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is very, very important to note here, is that he is just being so aggressive with his scouting, and that definitely signifies that he is up to no good. Good on him to actually catch this boar as it was just about to escape. But yeah, it looks like this game is going to be very, very crazy from the get-go. We do have an early loom, though, from Hallis Scholar compared to Spring.
Yeah, I mean, that loom, of course, is quite a big deal when it comes to doing a nice, fast feudal in the on Arabia here. Of course, I always think we're playing as the Huns. This is Magyars, of course. I need to keep reminding myself that, because, you know, they are very similar. The Magyars and the Huns are very similar. But going back to what we were saying before about this lumber camp, only 3 villagers on the wood for Hallis here, which kind of says to me, okay, we're not going to see a drush, because usually for a drush you would expect to see 4 villagers on the wood, just so you can get enough wood to actually make the barracks in time. But look at this, Hallis is going to catch this boar, and if he, oh no.
Oh no, it actually passes around the tree, and he's not going to be able to stop this boar lure from springing.
Oh no, he might. He's going to catch that sheep at any rate.
Okay. All right, he gets 1 sheep out of that, so we already have the forward aggression here, and Spring is down a sheep. There's no way he can come back from this.
He's down 3 sheep. Hallis has already stolen 2. And, I mean, who needs to steal a boar when you can just steal 3 sheep instead? He found a couple right in the corner of Spring's base, and Spring now probably wondering what the hell is going on. I mean, he's scouting all around his base here. He's found none of his sheep at all, and now we've got Hallis even getting into this wood line and being a nuisance right from the get-go. And I like this. I like this style from Hallis, because this is what he needs to do. He has to throw Spring off, because otherwise Spring will just execute a kind of perfect methodical build here, and Hallis doesn't want that to happen, because if he knows if that happens, Spring will gain the advantage.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It is remarkable, actually, how much damage he has done just by moving his scout here forward in the early game. Like you said, he grabbed 3 sheep, and not only that, he's gotten quite a bit of idle time from these villagers from Spring, and
yeah,
if he keeps hitting these villagers, he might be able to force Spring to get loom earlier than he wants to.
He may even force them back to the TC, which would almost be worse as well in this situation, because, I mean, Spring's going to be getting loom any second now. Yeah, he's doing it already, and if they were forced back to the TC, that's quite a lot of idle time for them. Now, at the moment, Spring's found Hallis' scout, so he's chasing that down. Hallis will lose his scout if they fight one-on-one, so Hallis is going to have to go back home. But Spring now up to the Feudal Age, and it looks like he's going to do... Well, he's taking a lot of villagers over to Wood. We may see a couple more farms coming down from him once he gets up to the Feudal Age. Do you think he's going to go straight for scouts here? It seems like the most logical choice with the Magyars.
Yeah, I'm going to also assume safely that he is going to go straight for scouts. They can really be, extra efficient on the Magyars because once you build that blacksmith building, you do get the free forging, iron casting, and blacksmith upgrades for your melee units, giving them a little bit of that extra attack stat, and that can make the scout rush a lot more fearsome if he wants to put down a blacksmith while he still has a couple of those alive. But we'll see. I think it's the logical choice here to get in some raiding before they have time to react.
For sure, especially as well, when you get that extra attack on the scouts, it really reduces the amount of hits you have to take. If you've got 3 scouts and you're trying to kill villagers, it really reduces the amount of hits you have to make with those scouts to take those villagers down, which is always a nice little positive there. Now, Hallis also up to the Feudal Age. Is he up faster? They look like they are completely neck and neck. In fact, Hallis just ahead, and he's sending that forward villager.
Just a few seconds.
Yeah, and he's sending that forward villager as well at the moment, right behind Spring's woodline. Do you think we might see a tower going up in this woodline here? It could be pretty effective if he pulls it off.
That's a great question, but I think that, I think he's up to no good right now, and I expect to see a tower, in the indent of the woodline right here.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Wall that off, and Spring hasn't seen this yet, right? I don't think.
I don't think he has. Meanwhile, Spring trying to do a little bit of harassment to Hallis back at home. Hallis, of course, going to lose his scout cavalry here if he continues to fight. And that scout from Spring on just under half health as a spearman comes out to try and push it away. So far, Spring not losing any villagers, and that stable is up for him as well. And Spring going for the scouts here as well. Now, you might be wondering why Spring delayed those farms. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he did horse collar before he put the farms down. In fact, let's just quickly check the tech tree to double check if Spring did horse collar or not, because I'm pretty certain he did, yes. So Spring did horse collar, and then he put his farms down. So he delayed the farms slightly, and he's cutting it really fine, but it does mean that he will get extra from his farms here.
Yeah, very, very smart on Spring there. Saves a lot of wood in the long run, but if you look right now, Spring was just barely on the edge of the line of sight to Hallis' Scholar's watchtower, and he has found it indeed, but too little too late. That watchtower is going to go up, and all these villagers that he's spending building this watchtower
it will. Oh, no, it's
basically idle. Oh no, wow, the watchtower, 18 HP.
Wow, that was so close. That was unreal. There was... a single game tick in difference there. Wow. That tower from Hallis will not be successful, and that would have been huge if he got it up. But that villager, once getting attacked by that watchtower there, started to go idle and couldn't finish it in time. The tower has been completely wasted, and that of course has cost Hallis about 119 stone as well, because he will not get much stone back for deleting that one now, as it's on 98% construction. That is so close. That was so close.
That is simply devastating right there. Like you said, that's one tick of game time right now, and that can't be good for Hallis' Scholar's, the mental aspect of this game, I guess, right now, is hopefully that doesn't put him on tilt or anything like that, because that must be unfortunately quite frustrating.
Yeah, for sure.
But the scouts are moving out. Do you expect both players to start transitioning into archers pretty soon? What do you think?
Yes, I mean, I'm saying that based off the metagame because you cannot realistically go scouts 100%. But looking at Spring's farms at the moment, it seems like he might just have a couple more out. And I've seen him do this before. He has oftentimes made a lot more scouts. And that's also the benefit of getting horse collar a little bit earlier. You do get a little bit of extra food out of those farms compared to what you would without the horse collar upgrade. So we may see more scouts coming out for Spring than the usual 4 or 5, but he is starting to put villagers on gold now anyway, so I can imagine he will switch into archers fairly soon to follow this through with a castle age upgrade, which is pretty much the standard style of play that we can expect. However, interestingly enough, neither of them have a blacksmith down yet, and neither of them taking advantage of that +1 attack on the scouts that they could get for absolutely, well, not free, but for the cost of a blacksmith, which they're going to want anyway.
Yeah, that is very, very important to note. And Spring here actually has a couple of spearmen very, very well positioned on his part. Hallis Scholar also has that as well. So these scouts really haven't got to do too much damage, unfortunately. And actually, it looks like there's gonna be a fight breaking out right about here.
Yeah, in the center of the map, and Spring definitely has those numbers advantage. Of course, he still has his scout from the very start of the game with a single 1 HP, but if you can still get an attack in, that's a little bit of damage that you could get out of that. But yeah, as I said before, he's continued a little bit on the scout production here. In fact, he's doing bloodlines at the moment as well. So he's kind of invested quite a lot into these scouts here, which is risky, but if it pays off, then they can really do a whole lot of damage. You know, if they get into the back of your eco and stop picking off your villagers, they can be a real pain to deal with. Not to mention that scouts and archers are pretty much the best feudal combination you can have. So having a strong set of scouts to support your archers really is beneficial once you get up to the feudal. Once you get those archers out on the field.
Yeah, and one very, very interesting difference right now is we do actually finally see the blacksmith coming out for Spring right now, but Hallis Scholar hasn't put down anything else besides this stable and his barracks, and if you look at his resource count, looks like he is going to try and go straight to the castle age right here. He's all walled up, and that's his game plan. So both players here with a very different approach to how they want to play this game.
Indeed, and it's kind of throwing red flags for me at the moment in terms of Hallis's gameplay. We've seen this time and time again, in fact, where you've got the player walling up with just the palisade and the stone wall, and walling and walling and walling behind it. We've seen Hallis in this same position before, and it did not go well for him, unfortunately. So we will see whether he can actually defend well enough from these scouts. Now, at the moment, I think Hallis may be able to just about pull it off. The problem is, of course, he only has a palisade wall protecting his left side of his economy, and that could be very easily taken down if Spring gets enough archers and scouts on the case. So it's a little bit risky.
I completely agree. And my question to you is, do you think the knights that I'm anticipating from Hallis Scholar here, do you think they're going to be enough? Do you think that Hal is going to get away with this, basically?
I think it depends how Spring reacts, and I think that it's really down to how quickly he follows it up with a Castle Age of his own. And if you have a look, he's really not going to be far behind on clicking that Castle Age upgrade button. Obviously, the Scout Rush leads it very nicely into a fast castle, or sort of fast castle. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more farms if you're making scouts, so getting that 800 food is usually not a problem. Spring's now clicked up, so I mean, he's really not far behind Hallis, and by the time Hallis is broken out from this kind of aggression anyway, Spring will already have his own knights on the field by the time Hallis has even escaped these the confines of his walls. So this is looking really concerning. And as well, I mean, we've seen this situation before. We've seen Hallis walling with stone walls behind his stable, and we've seen Robbo take the stable down, and then Hallis builds stables behind it and keep walling and walling. And the big thing here is, in the Forgotten, buildings have less HP. So this house has only got 750 health. Once he gets to the Castle Age, it'll go up to 900. But that's obviously it makes it even more risky to basically try and just wall yourself in, as the walls that you make are a lot less stronger.
Yeah, I think it's critical here to draw that parallel between the Robo and Hallis Scholar Game 2 and this game, because they're turning out to be almost identical. Hallis Scholar, while he did go for a faster Castle Age, Spring was, as you said, right behind him. One interesting thing... Oh, actually, no, never mind. I was going to say that Hallis Scholar did not have bloodlines, but he did have +1 defense, where Spring did not. But both players are basically even here in the upgrades, and one result of this is that Spring just simply has a stronger economy right now, while his base is more open. You know, he's right up to the Castle Age right now, and I don't know if these knights are going to make too much of an impact.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Spring has walled up. It doesn't take much. If you put your mind to it and you're not under any pressure, walling up is usually not a problem. Even on a map like Arabia that is typically very open, if you have your opponent locked inside their base, it's no real pressure on you to wall, because you've got all the time in the world, effectively. So Hallis now breaking out, and I don't think he's in such a bad position. As you say, his economy might be slightly weaker. We'll see. It looks like he's actually... Oh, never mind. Sorry, I was going to say I thought he was going to put up his 2nd and 3rd TC, but he's actually spent that stone on the walls and the tower, of course. So
yeah,
this could be tough for him, actually. I mean, he's under a little bit of pressure from archers on the top. And Spring, of course, going to have his own knights out very soon.
It looks like he's going to pull his knights to go deal with those archers over there. What a nuisance from Spring, but very, very well played in his part to go put those there. Draw Hal's attention back to his own economy, and we got a little bit of fight going on over here between Hallis Scholar and Spring, but these knights are going to make short work of those scout cavalry.
Oh, yes,
but right now the game is pretty even with a small advantage towards Spring right now, but it's only going to get worse as time goes on.
I don't know, actually. I mean, the thing here is that Hallis has actually made a really nice little play. He's broken into the left side of Spring's economy here. He's torn down those palisade walls, and this is of course going to force Spring to maybe even stone wall behind this to stop it happening again. But the real big thing here is that Hallis has actually taken 2 villagers from Spring so far, one on the left side, and one on the right side, as Spring was trying to send a sneak villager forward. However, Spring's still managing to send a sneak out. He's got a siege workshop on the right side of Hallis' base. But, I mean, really, considering Hallis was locked inside of his base a minute ago, he's done a decent job pushing out and forcing Spring back. Problem is, Spring outnumbers him, and as we've already said, Spring will have a stronger economy as well, and Spring is not shy to stick down 5 town centers. We've seen that many times before as well.
Yeah, he definitely did that a lot versus LB10. A very, very sneaky siege workshop from Spring. I don't know if you saw this, but he's also put down a monastery here. It looks like he's going to start collecting relics. What do you think of that decision here? Do you think it's going to pay off, and do you think he's going to keep making monks or just use those for the relics?
I'm trying to spot this. Oh, the monastery there. Okay, yeah. Obviously, collecting the relics is always a good thing to go for. If you've got the time and the kind of inclination, then taking the relics is never a bad idea at all. But of course, defending from a night rush, or defending from knights in general, monks are really the way to go. I mean, there's no better unit, really, for defending against knights than monks, because you just get the conversions and the knights are yours, effectively. You know, this could really turn things around, and obviously with 9 range as well, it's going to make it difficult for Hallis to just push in there. I think the choice of the monastery means that Spring will put up his 2nd and 3rd TC very soon.
Yeah, it's going to make defending a lot easier for him, and just throwing in like 2 extra monks into your knight army can really, really change the tides here. Throw sort of a curveball at Hal, because now if he commits to a fight, if he tries to focus down the monks, he's going to sustain heavy damage from the knights, and if he focuses down the knights, then he's going to lose like 1 or 2, and that could turn the entire fight around if he's not careful.
Exactly. And let's not also forget that kind of passive healing that the monks have as well. Just sitting them behind your army, a slight boost to health overall can give you a lot more longevity. So, at the moment though, Spring pushing back out again, and the siege workshop on the right side has got a couple of mangonels inside, so it looks like Spring will try and bust through these walls. It's not going to take him long, because this barracks is losing health very, very rapidly, which is a real problem for Hallis at the moment. However, Hallis does seem to have the larger army here, and if Spring continues to fight against this barracks, he could end up taking down this army. We're going to see a pretty decent fight if Spring commits, but it looks like he's going to run back.
And he only manages to lose 1 knight off that, so not bad in the end, but is he going to commit to this fight?
Man, I think if Spring commits to the fight, I think it's a mistake. Obviously, they're even on upgrades, and Spring definitely seems to have the disadvantage in terms of numbers. I mean, those monks are out of position. They've gone to collect up more relics, so, I mean, he's taking his time with the relics here. And I'm still surprised that Spring hasn't added his 2nd or 3rd TC yet. I mean, he's really committed to this kind of aggression here.
Yeah, this is rather uncharacteristic of him. We usually expect to see, upwards of 5 town centers, but both players are just mirroring each other on 1 TC here. Both players with a monastery, a couple of monks, a bunch of knights, and as surprising as it is to me, I think how's his scholar going to be the first player to get the 2nd TC this game? My goodness.
I think he is. It's going up on that gold on the left side. And you know what? They're really close in terms of population as well. Hallis on 75, Spring on 79. There is very little in it. And I think Spring, maybe a couple more villagers out at the moment. But this is shaping up to be a really nice game. And in actual fact, I think if Hallis gets out a few monks of his own as well, it could be a very, very exciting fight when it comes to it, because those monks, as you say, definitely throw in a little bit of a curveball.
Yeah, both players here just playing their A game right now. Very, very exciting to watch, and yeah, it looks like 3 TCs coming up from Hallis Scholar, and I don't think I see another TC from Spring yet, so this could end up turning the tides if Spring doesn't actually get an advantage and get to pressure him before these town centers go up.
Yeah. Well, the main difference in play here that I see is that Spring is invested in pikemen, and those pikemen +2 attack, of course, which he gets from the knights for free anyway, +1 defense, so a little bit of extra resource spent there. But of course, building those barracks, building the pikemen, Spring is investing much more heavily into military and much less into economy. Now, if Hallis, as you say, can hold out and actually get a bit of a lead in terms of villagers, then he could pull through and actually push back. But this is a really dicey time for Hallis now, because he can't engage this army with the pikes being in there, as he will just take too much damage.
Yeah, one bright side of the situation, at least, is that the barracks are not very close from Spring, so he does have to walk the pikemen there. But yeah, I do love this decision from him to throw in the pikemen. It's just going to mean that Hallis' Scholar cannot commit to these fights, and well, the pressure is coming out here, and I think the game is going to come down to, can Spring do enough damage here, or is he going to start falling behind economically? And it's looking scary close.
It's looking like a scary army as well. Mangonel's coming in, and Hallis, it's all well and good having these TCs, but if the Mangonels are on a hill and attacking downhill against your TCs, they are not going to stand for very long. And this is the real problem at the moment I see for Hallis, is that these Mangonels, he needs to take them down quickly, otherwise the TCs will fall, and that is going to be a real big problem.
Yeah, there is just no way that he can get to these Mangonels, unfortunately. His only line of defense against them is to convert them with a monk, but
yes.
That's going to be really tricky here. The Siege Workshop from Spring is doing work, and this town center is in big trouble.
I've got to say, though, Hallis has got a couple of conversions, but there are more monks out for Spring at the moment. We've got 3 monks behind here for Spring, getting 3 conversions straight away, and Hallis is going to try and get those conversions as quick as he can as well. Some knights coming in from behind, and now the real problem here for Hallis as well is that this town center doesn't have fletching, which means it's doing pretty much no damage at all to this army from Spring, and Hallis looks like he is just too outnumbered to really fight this. We'll see if the town center can really turn things around, but I am doubtful, as Spring seems to be getting a huge advantage now in terms of numbers as this fight goes on.
Yeah, you're 100% correct here. The lack of fletching on this town center from Spring means that his town center's arrow shots are going to do literally 1 damage to these knights per shot, and that's just not going to cut it. This town center is going down, and Spring is pulling ahead in a massive pop lead. That looks like it's GG.
Wow, that was a really nice push by Spring there, and that is exactly what we were talking about with the option of the town centers. When I saw those monks, I honestly thought that Spring would just sit behind his walls with the monks and build his 2nd and 3rd TC. And I think that's what Hallis may have thought as well, because, you know, Hallis really committed to getting that economy rolling, and Spring, in the meanwhile, just rolled, getting through that TC like nothing, and really, that was a very well executed push by Spring there, and just too difficult for Hallis to defend without investing a huge amount more in army than he already had.
A fantastic game from both players here. I don't know if you saw this, but at the end of the game, Hallis' Scholar was stockpiling 800 of everything that's not stone, so it looks like towards the end he was definitely struggling to get that army out with the resources that he had, but this game looked really close until the end, but Spring managed to turn it around despite being down in villagers with just honestly a superior army, but both players played exceptionally though.
This is the thing, if you look at the military production for Hallis, he had 2 stables, and if you look at the military production for Spring, he had 1, 2, 3 barracks and 2 stables, and obviously that archery range as well, and the siege workshop. All of that extra military production just ended up being a larger army, and Hallis just was not prepared for that. So there we go, game number 2, and it is 2-0 to Spring. And of course, this is a best of 7, so we'll be going to game number 3 in just a moment's time.